Over these past weeks, we've explored how a reciprocal relationship begins with respect, and how that respect nurtures the growth of trust and reliability. Today, we're going to talk about another component of a flourishing relationship, and that's the art of open communication. I know, this already sounds boring, because you've heard it all before, right? But I'm here to tell you, sisters, if you don't have open communication in your relationships the right way, your relationships won't flourish, because they can't. And I have no problem repeating that. If your relationship, be it romantic, familiar, friendship, or career, if it lacks open communication the right way, then that relationship will have a problem flourishing. Sweet sisters, please hear me out. We must get this communication thing truly understood, or we risk spending this entire year building relationships on shaky ground. Think about it. Respect can't grow without clear communication of boundaries, trust can't deepen without honest sharing of feelings, and reliability can't be established without open dialogue about expectations. Communication isn't just a nice-to-have skill, it's the very breath that keeps our relationships alive. Without it, we're trying to dance together while listening to different songs in our heads. We might be moving across the dance floor, but we're not truly in sync. And sisters, being in sync isn't just about moving to the same rhythm, it's about creating harmony in every aspect of your relationship. When you're in sync, you can anticipate each other's needs, understand unspoken concerns, and move together through life's challenges with grace and understanding. It's like watching those elderly couples who've been together for decades. They flow together effortlessly because years of open communication has created a deep connection where words aren't always necessary. On the other hand, being out of sync creates friction that wears away at the fabric of your relationships. It's like trying to row a boat with each person paddling in a different direction. You're both working hard, but you're not getting anywhere. This disconnect doesn't just affect the relationship, it can affect your personal well-being, your peace of mind, and even your physical health. The stress of misalignment, of constantly feeling misunderstood or unable to express yourself fully, can drain your energy and dim your spirit, which is why mastering open communication isn't an option for your relationship. Dears, it's essential to your relationship. Can't you see? When you're in sync, you're not just existing together, or merely sharing space together, you're growing together, supporting each other, and creating a foundation strong enough to weather any storm. A foundation that can last a lifetime. Sisters, open communication is the result of created spaces where honest conversations can flourish, where vulnerable feelings can be shared without fear, and where differences can be discussed with respect, understanding, and acceptance. I remember sitting with my grandmother in her kitchen, watching how she could resolve family conflicts with just a few wise words and fresh-baked cookies. She taught me that good communication isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, which I had a tendency to be. Instead, it was about creating a space where every voice felt safe enough to speak their truth. Creating these safe spaces is intentional, and they look different for each of us. It might be over morning tea before the house wakes up, during a shared meal with your boyfriend or spouse, or even while working in the fields with your mother. The key is choosing moments where pressure feels low and connection feels natural. These gentle moments, when hearts are open and defenses are down, create the perfect opportunity to share what's really on our minds and in our hearts. A key component to open communication is expressing feelings clearly and without blame. Instead of saying "you never help with the children," try saying "I feel overwhelmed with managing the children alone." See how different that sounds. One builds walls, the other builds bridges. Like my friend Nancy, who struggled with her husband's long work hours. Instead of accusing him of neglecting his family, she shared how much the children missed their evening stories with him. This opened a conversation about family priorities, rather than creating a defensive argument. A crucial aspect of open communication is active listening, and sisters, this is where many of us need to pause and really understand what this means. You see, it's not just about just hearing words, but it's about understanding the heart behind them. It's about listening deeply with your ears, to hear the words, your eyes, to see the unspoken, and your heart, to understand the feelings that might be too tender to express. When your child says, "I hate school," are they really talking about school, or is there something deeper troubling them? Maybe it's about feeling lonely, struggling with a subject, or dealing with a bully. Active listening means hearing not just the words, but the emotions, the fears, and the unspoken needs behind them. Think about when your mother sighs heavily while doing her daily tasks. Is she just tired? Or is she carrying worries she doesn't know how to share? Or when your spouse gives one-word answers, are they simply busy, or is there something weighing on their mind? These are key moments when active listening can transform a simple conversation into a bridge of understanding, creating space for deeper connections and even healing. Next, dears, let's focus on something that often makes us uncomfortable but is vital to open communication, and that's conflict resolution. Many of us were raised to avoid conflict at all costs, to keep the peace by staying silent. But sisters, learning to disagree respectfully is an art that we must master if we want our relationships to thrive. Think of it like this: just as water flows gracefully around rocks in a stream, rather than trying to break through them, we can express our differences or issues while maintaining respect and dignity. It's not about winning or forcing our way or thoughts upon the other person, dears. It's about finding paths to harmony and understanding that will preserve the relationship's foundation. Dears, can't you see, when we create space for different perspectives to be heard and valued, something beautiful happens. The relationship actually grows stronger. Each person feels seen and respected, even in disagreement. This builds a deeper trust and understanding between people. Like a tree that grows stronger when its roots are challenged by wind, a relationship often becomes more resilient when we learn to work through our differences with grace and mutual respect. This kind of authentic engagement, where each voice matters and each perspective is considered, creates the fertile ground where true intimacy and connection can flourish. This is especially important because conflict is natural and inevitable in any relationship that matters to us. Whether it's with our spouse, our children, our parents, or our colleagues, differences will arise. The key isn't to avoid these moments, but to navigate them with wisdom and grace, keeping our hearts open, even when we disagree. Sisters, it's about getting to the place where you recognize that finding a solution is more important than winning the argument. Instead of arguing about who was right, about spending habits, how about focusing on the shared dream of buying a home? The question changed from who's right to what can work for the both of us. Sisters, when it comes to conflicts, we need to take responsibility for our part. We simply need to own it. We need to be honest and courageous and take responsibility when communication failure is because of us. Maybe you responded harshly because you were tired, or forgot an important date because you were overwhelmed. Dears, acknowledging our part in a misstep opens the door to genuine resolution, and it tells the other person that we're sincere about finding understanding, that we truly want to resolve the issue, that we value the relationship enough to be vulnerable and honest about our own shortcomings. It shows we're not just interested in being right, but in making things right, in finding real solutions that strengthen our connection rather than weaken it. Because we're a team. Sisters, see it this way: creating win-win outcomes means acknowledging that in our closest relationships, when one person loses, you both actually lose. Like two sisters I know who were arguing over caring for their aging mother. Once they stopped fighting over who should do more and started talking about how to combine their different strengths to give their mother the best all-around care, everything changed. Can't you see, when both parties feel heard and their needs are considered, the relationship doesn't just survive the conflict, it literally thrives, it emerges stronger, more resilient, and more loving. Sisters, before we end, let's address something real, and that's, what happens when the openness isn't reciprocated? When you're doing all the right things, creating safe spaces, expressing your feelings clearly, listening actively, working to resolve conflicts respectfully, but the other person isn't even trying to meet you halfway? Here's the truth, dears, you can only control your side of the bridge. While it takes two to create truly open communication, your commitment to healthy communication isn't wasted, even when it isn't reciprocated or matched. By maintaining your standards for open, honest, and respectful communication, you're not just showing others how to treat you, you're honoring yourself by being true to yourself. Think of it like tending a garden. You can prepare the soil, plant the seeds, provide water and care, but you can't force the flowers to bloom. Similarly, you can create the conditions for open communication, but you can't force others to participate with like mind. But Dear ones, what you can do is maintain your own integrity, keep your own heart open, while protecting your boundaries, and continue to communicate with respect and clarity, even if others don't reciprocate. Sisters, 2025 stretches before us like an unwritten book, each page an opportunity to write a new chapter for our relationships. Let this be the year where we commit to being the change we want to see in our relationships. Whether you're a mother teaching your children healthy communication, a wife working to deepen understanding with your spouse, or a woman choosing to raise the standard, in all your relationships, your commitment to open, honest communication can create a ripple effect that can extend far beyond yourself. You're not just changing your own relationships, you're showing others what's possible when we choose to communicate with respect, clarity, and grace. So let this be your year of intentional open communication, of creating those safe spaces, of maintaining those high standards, even if you're the only one doing it at first. Because sometimes, dear ones, it takes just one person to show others the way, to create an atmosphere where growth becomes possible, where better relationships can bloom. Remember what we've learned over these weeks: respect forms the foundation, trust and reliability build the framework, and true open communication creates the pathways for connection. Stay true to these principles, even when it's challenging, or you're doing it all by yourself, because at the end of the day, how we communicate reflects who we are, not just in words, but in the dignity and grace with which we choose to move through our relationships, even the challenging ones. Keep your hearts open, your communication clear, and your standards high. Until next time.